Drum roll, please. Hello, and welcome. And this is Her Talk Show. My name is Sabrina Victoria, and we are here talking with Nancy Zare. We're going to be talking all about likability. Girl, I love this.
I'm so glad you do, because a likability is not about popularity. It's about the feeling created in the other person that says, you get me, we're alike. Hence, I call it the ability to make someone feel we're alike.
I love that. I love it. Well, I'm super excited. For those of you that are already jumping on live, we see you. Get comfortable as we explore the triumphs and challenges faced by women worldwide. We're going to be offering insights and inspiration to fuel not only your personal, but also your professional growth. Let's jump right in.
Get ready, because today's guest is about to change the way you view your world. This is Her Talk Show, hosted by Sabrina Victoria.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Listen, if you're listening live, we so appreciate it. It's going to be an awesome show today. If you're listening on the replay, make sure you hashtag a replay wherever you're at so we can send you some love in the comments. We are here every day. We're delving deep into the realms of health, wealth, and leadership with some of the most brilliant women globally. We've interviewed over 600 women. Today, we are adding another one to the list. We have creator of the AlikeAbility system, Nancy Zare, Ph.D. She shows professional entrepreneurs how to turn 50% of their prospects into clients. She earned her master's and doctorate from Boston College and authored 7 books, including an Amazon international bestseller. Nancy resides in South Florida, is a student of spirituality and recovery, and volunteers as a foster family for the Farm Dog Rescue. Welcome, lady.
Delighted to be here and to talk to my and your community, right?
Yes, I love this. So where did this come to be? That we are alike? When did you figure this out? How long has this discovery been happening?
Probably about 14, 15 years ago when I started my current business. And my coach helped me she said that I needed to have a system. And so I went ahead and I gathered together what I thought was a sequential path towards sales success. And I realized it was all about the other person feeling we're alike. You get me? Because when people feel we're alike, the comfort goes up, the trust is there, the sales resistance drops away, and it opens the door to doing business together. Hence, it's a likability.
Did you figure this out in your personal or your professional life first? Where did it happen first?
Oh, in terms of the likability, it actually started personally, and it started when I was a girl of 10. My parents had a stormy marriage, and I saw a TV show in which Father Knows Best helped quarreling children get along. And I'd always wanted to help my parents get along. So I sat them down and I did this intervention. Now, Sabrina, they let me, which is pretty remarkable in and of itself. But at the end of this conversation, I turned to my dad, and both mom and dad were native-born English-speaking adults. And I said to him, this is what you need to do so mom will feel loved. And I translated what I heard. And I said to mom, this is what you do so dad will be respected. Notice the words changed. And that's because they spoke different languages and they couldn't understand what the other person was saying. Hence, they were not very likable.
Oh my gosh, you did this at 10?
I did it at 10. Now, I will tell you, both parents are deceased, so I can't ask them. At the time, I'm just a kid. I don't think much of this. But as long as I'm lived in that family, and of course, I went off to college in about, 7, 8 years, my parents got along a lot better. They eventually did separate. They never divorced, but they did separate. And again, it came down to the fact that they spoke different languages. And I, the child, translated. Now, I've gone on as an adult to now help people hear and speak just what you say to match the other person's language. Because when you do that, you're naturally going to be in rapport. Make sense?
Okay, so are two of the languages that you mentioned here two that you teach, respect and love? Is that true?
There are actually 4 languages, and they correspond to the 4 personality styles. I'm sure that you and listeners are familiar with various personality systems. There are over 200, including DISC, colors, Myers-Briggs, animals, objects, all sorts of them. I, too, have reverted to the fact that there are 4 personality styles. And after 35 years of research, not all mine, a colleague's, we have discovered that each of these styles has a different number of contacts, touch points that they need before they can make a decision. And so we have given them the numbers rather than names. And the numbers are 2, 4, 6, and 8. And they correspond to how many contacts someone needs before they can make up their minds.
Oh my gosh. This is so cool. We were literally just talking about this today in our mastermind. We were talking about how many contacts you need. So you're saying that there is actually individuals that only need 2.
1 or 2, they're very fast. They're the ones that want it off their plate. They're quick decision makers. They don't want to fool around with details. They want to get it done. They want to get it done as quickly as possible and get results. And so for them, it's only 1, at most 2 touch points.
So that's what in the sales world we'd call a laydown.
A laydown or low-hanging fruit is another term I've heard used, right? Because these are the people that are ripe for picking. In fact, they may have fallen from the tree. But according to Chet Holmes, at any given time, only 3% of the population is actively looking to buy what you're selling, which means 97% really need more than 1 touch point.
Wow. Okay. So so the 4 personality styles, there's no name for them. They're just a 2, a 4, a 6, and 8. And you treat each of them differently.
That's right, because the number 2 is fast, results oriented, bottom line, very different conversation than, say, with the 8. The 8, if you turn the 8 on its side, it's the symbol for infinity. So this person starts with 8 and they can go forever. The person who has to think about it, and a year later, finally they make up their mind. Well, that's our number 8 buyer. And now, why is the number 8 taking so long? Because they are immersing themselves in science and research and data and statistics, right? They want proof, scientific proof, a return on their investment, that if they go ahead and hire you, you're going to fulfill what they want and more so.
Got it. The real awesome takeaway that I'm getting here is you have to keep following up.
Oh, I love the fact that that's a good takeaway, because you've heard the expression, I think Jim Rohn is the first who said it, the fortune is in the follow-up.
Yeah.
And so many of us, we might contact somebody once. In fact, about half of us, 52% will contact somebody once and then stop.
Yeah.
26% of us will contact people twice and then stop. And notice it's deteriorating by about a half, which means that by the time somebody's ready to buy, which is usually the 6th, 7th contact, that's the average, most people have stopped asking. They've dropped away. And if we only kept following up and follow up the way our prospect wants, it would work. We'd be golden. We'd make more sales. Otherwise, we're leaving money on the table.
This is hilarious. This is literally what I just taught this morning. Exactly.
See, good minds think alike, Sabrina.
Yes, this is so great. And what's great about this is it reiterates, so many times we're talking and we're like, is it really this hard? Is it really this easy? Wherever we're at. So just literally hearing somebody say the exact same thing. This is so great. So the fortune is in the follow-up. For anyone listening, make sure you write that down. Fortune is in the follow-up. And then you just said to follow up the way they need you to. What does that mean?
I'm glad you caught that, because with the number 2 buyer, there really isn't follow-up. They either buy or they don't buy when you've met with them. The number 8, remember I talked about they need research, data, statistics. They need scientific information. Send them articles, send their websites. If there's a book for them to read, if there's a white paper that's been written, this is the stuff that's juicy and they love. The number 4 person, now this is the person who's pretty fast. They make up their mind in only 2 or 3 touch points. Why did I call them a 4? Because they need 1 touch point after they've said yes. That's because they get cold feet, buyer's remorse. They think about returning things or canceling or whatever. They go back and they think about, did you really like me, or was this just a transaction? Notice they were asking, do you like me? Because for them, it's about a relationship. So how do you follow up with them? It's about connecting personally. It's about engaging in personal conversations. And then the funny thing, Sabrina, 80%, 90% of your conversation could be very personal, and you're exchanging, information about who you are, what you like, and then they're ready to do business and boom, it's done. But again, it's about a relationship because they're buying you, the seller. Okay?
Got it.
Now that brings us to our number 6 buyer. The average number of contacts needed before people make a buying decision is around 6. So I think of this as the average buyer. Now, they're not average in terms of numbers. About 35% of the population are strong in the number 6 characteristic. Here in the United States, it's probably that high or higher, and that's because our school system teaches us to be good number 6s. Follow the directions, follow the rules, ask for permission, be mannerly, be courteous, have a system, etc. Don't color outside the lines. That's the number 6. And so what kinds of information do they need? They need social proof. They need to hear testimonies, recommendations, and references from other people who've used the service and have gotten good results.
Wow. So this is where the testimonials come into play and why those are so important.
Right. But if you send a testimonial to the number 8, remember the number 8 is geeky and wants information. To them, that's very subjective. It's not objective data. And they're looking again for a different form of information. Hence, as you noticed, we have to follow up in the style that our prospect prefers. Speak their language.
Yeah. So where should we be putting our testimonials in order to touch those number 6s?
Well, of course they should be available, because although I've talked about 4 styles, we are a combination of all 4. One is dominant. About 30% of the population, it's just that one style. But 70% of the population move between 2 or more styles. Hence, they could have as a secondary style the number 6. Remember, in the United States, we are taught to be like this. Hence, the 6 style is very prominent. And many of us look for testimonials. Remember those ratings on Google or wherever the directories are, the good housekeeping, seal of approval. This is important for us in terms of making buying decisions.
Yes. Now, how does you said these are for 6s, 8s don't need to say that. How do we know who's a 6 and who's a 8?
Oh, I love how you ask that, because you can tell in multiple ways, and I help my clients figure it out in a short minute. The best way is you go and look this person up on the web, online. Their online presence tells you what their style is. If they've posted a photo, look at the photo, because it's in plain sight what their style is. If they have words that have been exchanged, perhaps emails or text messages, the words will tell you what their style is. Or their writing style itself will tell you what their number is. So these are just a few of the ways that I help my clients figure it out, through writing, through what they wear, how they talk, how they post on social media, how they behave, and so forth.
What's an example of an 8?
In terms of which, how they look or how they talk or
Anything
which?
you want to give me.
Okay, so here's a good one, and it has to do with photos because many of us have a photo on our website or we have a photo on our social media homepage. Look at the photo. There are 4 types of smiles and they correspond to the 4 styles. The number 8 smile is actually a serious face. They don't smile. Their lips are rarely parted, or if they are, it's kind of a lackluster, so I have to have my picture taken and I'm not real enthused about it. And that's because the 8s are not into social stuff. They don't like having their photo taken. They don't like having people look at them and be center stage. Now they love their brains and their ability to think and their content and what they produce. Hence, that's why they're serious, because they're all business, right? And so you will find them not smiling, maybe even a grimace, maybe that sense of, oh, they're uncomfortable. They really don't want to have their picture taken.
Very interesting. Now, is this like looking at 5 photos and getting the like main result out of the one? Because I have some where I'm straight faced, but some that I'm like,
oh, good point. Yeah, because there's a multitude of photos. It would probably be the one that you've chosen as your profile picture, or perhaps on your banner behind you, as opposed to other photos that were taken here, there, or wherever.
wow.
Because you're putting a great deal of thought and
Yeah.
attention into that profile photo, right? The profile picture. You're selecting it. You're having to upload it. Hence, you're saying, how do I want the public to view me? What do I want them to think of me? And so if you're putting on a serious photo, it's because you want people to see you as a serious, thoughtful person.
Yeah. So I want to ask, when you are following up, and you're saying we're building relationships, sometimes we're just talking about life, and then all of a sudden they buy. What is your like step process for building relationships, but then also letting the individual know that you are selling a product? Like, how do you weave that?
Oh, that's a great question, because I think many people stumble with this, and people become transactional too quickly. I'm sure the listener has experienced somebody coming into your message box or into your inbox, and they initially asked to connect, or maybe they didn't connect, and they immediately spring on you. Well, here's my workshop, buy my book, do something here, attend this presentation. It's like, I don't even know you yet, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's way too premature. And so you need to, and remember, only 3% at any given time are ready to buy. 97% you need to nurture. And so that's where you want to invest your time, is in nurturing relationships. And if you know what their style is, then it's easy. You just go ahead and respond in style. If you don't know what their style is, then again, you may be premature in asking them to look at your stuff, or let's have a Zoom meeting, or whatever it might be.
Very interesting. Definitely appreciate that. As far as you and your story, how has your intuition, or your, born a psychologist, kind of path, how has that helped you in sales?
I would not be in sales today if it were not for the fact that I care deeply about communication and helping and serving people. Because I had no intention, Sabrina, as a girl, getting into sales. I had the stereotype, as many of us do, maybe still have the stereotype, that sales is pushy, aggressive, manipulative, sleazy, etc. That's not my values. I don't want people to be thinking of me in that way. And so I backdoored into selling. And it's because when I got my graduate degrees, the government paid for my studies to train me to deliver mental health services in the workplace. It was a great match for somebody interested in human behavior like I was. But when I graduated, I realized you can't implement a program until it's sold. And that's how I started my path on sales, deliberately as opposed to inadvertently, because honestly, folks, we all sell all the time. If you've asked your partner or a child or someone to do something, that's selling. It's simply trying to convince somebody or influence. I don't like the word convince, but influence someone to take an action. And so we sell all the time, but it wasn't until then that I found myself deliberately trying to make a sale. And I knew I didn't have the skills. So I went back to school, not to get a degree, but to study the masters. And I came across the book, and I actually listened to him speak first. Tony Alessandro wrote a book called The Platinum Rule. Now, you know the golden rule, right? Treat others the way I want to be treated. The platinum rule is treat others the way they want to be treated. That slight shift absolutely aligns with my values. And hence, that's what a likability is about. Speak in the language of the other person. Speak their words, speak their values, and they will relax and want to do business with you.
I have heard of this so long ago. I love that. Thank you for the reminder. Treat others how they want to be treated.
Yeah, absolutely. And let me give a good example, because many of us are women, right? We probably invited somebody over to our home for a home cooked meal, and we want to prepare and serve our best. But if you don't know the other person's tastes, for example, they may be allergic, they may be on a diet, they may have dietary restrictions like being kosher or whatnot. If we don't know this and we serve our best meal, but they're allergic to it, they can't eat it, what have we gained? Nothing. And that's the platinum rule. Treat them the way they want to be treated. And so I need to know, how do you want to be treated? How can I prepare a fabulous meal for you that I'm going to give my whole heart and soul, that you're going to enjoy as much as I will?
Wow, that's good. Great analogy.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone can relate to that. We got some more time here. I want to talk about aggressiveness. And I think that this is a human thought, but I think more so with the women. We don't want to be seen as aggressive. We don't want to be seen as the bro marketers. We don't want to be seen as being over salesy. I guess, what is the mindset shift that needs to happen, and or how are we supposed to do this?
The mind shift happens, again, if you know the other person's style and you know their values. Then when you operate within that context of their values, you're going to be alike, and it's going to make it easy for the other person to do business, and you won't be judged or seen as aggressive. So for example, let's go back to that number 2 buyer who buys in only 1, at most 2 contacts. They want you to be aggressive because they want to make the sale. They want to buy it and be off and done and go somewhere and do something else. So if you fail to ask because, oh, I'm being so nice and I don't want to be aggressive, you're actually not doing them a service. Now, with the number 4 buyer, again, the service is, let's develop a relationship. If you and I feel comfortable with each other, then it makes sense for us to go on and do business together. And it comes organically, naturally. It's part of our relationship. I support you, you support me. The number 6 buyer, again, they're looking for something different. And again, my aggressiveness will push them away. Why? Because they want third-party testimonials. They want to vet me and check out my references. They're not ready to make a snap buying decision. Same with the number 8. They need to see the science underneath what we're proposing, and for them to check it out, for them to say, yeah, it makes sense, let's do it.
Totally appreciate that. The number one thing that I am hearing in this arena is this whole process of contacting somebody 6 to 8 or plus times. It feels stalkish. It feels aggressive. Yeah. So what are the realms? Like, calling 8 times? Should we be doing it different ways? What?
I'm so glad you asked, because this is one of the tenets that I also teach, and that is always ask for permission. Ask for permission before you have your sales conversation. During your sales conversation, ask for permission to ask questions. Ask for permission to have a follow-up. Set a time and a date for the follow-up. Always ask for permission. And when you do that, and the person has said, yes, I'm put me on your newsletter list. Yes, send me an email. Yes, it's okay to call me or text message. Now, with that permission, you don't have to worry about being aggressive. They have given you permission and they are welcoming your conversation.
Okay. Is there a difference between asking and telling?
Oh, huge, right? Asking is the other person can say yes or no. Telling is basically, I'm the one in charge. You don't have a say.
So I go more so with the telling. So like at the end of my calls, I'll say, I usually do gives with a get. So before I get something from them, I always give. So like, for instance, and I'll probably do this with you after this podcast, but I'll say like, hey, listen, let me refer you to a couple of other podcasters that I know that I would love to get you onto their podcast. Do you know Sally? Do you know Brenda? No? Okay, I'll do a warm email introduction. Also, there's a woman in my community who's having issues with sales. I would love to connect her with you. Maybe you can help her out in this arena. Usually after I give a couple of gives, the individual will then say, oh my gosh, thank you so much. How can I help you? Right? The law of reciprocity. And then they say, how can I help you? I give them a couple of things. Oh, do you know somebody who does? Blah, blah, blah. At the end, when we're closing up, I always do a recap. So I say, okay, I'm going to connect you to Brenda. I'm going to connect you to Sally. I'm going to connect you to Ginger. I would love those connections to Eric and Greg. Also, I'm going to send you my networking call. And I do it every Thursday. I'm going to send that to you. I'd love to have you in our group to network with us. It's a virtual call. Also, I'm going to send you my sales page. The community that you heard me talk about a little bit on the podcast, where we go over, we have masterminds, networking, we do sales growth workshops. We have a great group of women who held out. I would love to have you attend. I think you'd be a great fit. I'm going to send you that. Look it over, see if it's something that works for you, and take it or leave it.
So what I've heard, Sabrina, is an invitation rather than a telling.
Okay.
You're summarizing the conversation, which is great. It makes sure that both of us are on the same page by summarizing what you heard, what you plan to do, the action steps. But then you're also inviting me to some opportunities. It's not an obligation. Now, I may, like you say, the law of reciprocity is such that I may be more inclined to accept the invitation because we're establishing a relationship, right? And part of establishing a relationship is spending more time together. I mean, you can't have a relationship that's, we never see and talk to each other.
I love that. So an invitation rather than
it's not a telling. Yeah, I didn't hear it as a telling.
Okay.
I heard it as an invitation. I'm going to send you such and such. It wasn't, and I'm telling you to be on that call next week, Thursday. That would be very different.
Okay. I appreciate that. Yeah, that helps me too with my process as far as explaining it, because I do say that a lot. Like, we can't be always asking for permission. We have to sometimes tell, because people are looking for leaders. They're looking for Nancy to help them in an area of which they suck at. So Nancy has, which you are, stand in a position of authority, stand in a position of power, so that they can trust that you're going to help them in the area of sales, contacts, networking, leads, because they're not doing very well in their business. So they're looking for Nancy to tell. But I like this word invitation. This feels more feminine.
Yeah, it's an invitation. So, Sabrina, you could, after our conversation, it's evident that here are some areas where you would like to gain more skill, more confidence. I believe I can help you. We've talked about what I have to offer. May I invite you? What's the next step?
I love that.
And again, it's not telling you now sign up and work with me. It's an invitation. And again, there's a summary of where it is that what I have to offer and what your concerns are, where there's a match, so that you can now consider, is this of value for me to go forward?
I love that. Very,
And
very
by asking what's next, again, you're allowing your prospect to let you know what's the next step. Well, I need to think about it, which a lot of them will say, great, tell me what are the areas that are still a little cloudy that you need thinking about, so that again, I can perhaps provide something to help you and guide you in your thinking.
beautiful. That's great. This has been phenomenal. I took friggin' 2 pages of notes. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. Obviously, everyone, we have a ton of people watching live. Oh, the time is 1, 2, 3, 4. I love that. In the Eastern time zone, which we're both in. Anyways, for those listening live who maybe are not in the Eastern time zone, thank you so much for being here. Nancy, we are getting a good idea of who you are, what you're teaching. Out of the individuals that are listening live, listening on the replay, who should be reaching out to you? Who do you help?
So I, of course, am looking to work with professional service-based professionals. You've invested in your occupation. You love what you do. And then there's this rude awakening. I'm going to have to market and sell what I do in order to get clients. And that you've never been trained and this isn't your area of strength. That's a good prospect for me, for us to talk. But I love working with referral partners. And these are people who do messaging, branding, copywriting, videography, people who are working with my prospect because they define the problem as a marketing problem and not a selling problem. And that's great. We can collaborate and help the same client really succeed.
Ooh. Great. Great. Where can people find you? Where are you on social media, websites?
Yeah, you'll find me on almost many of the social media platforms. My playground is LinkedIn. And if you know linkedin.com/in/Nancy Zare, spell my last name correctly. It's the last letter of the alphabet, Z, rhymes with care, Z-A-R-E. And you'll also find me Facebook, same last name, Nancy Zare. Instagram, somebody hacked the Instagram account, so it's now Dr. Nancy Zare, Dr. Nancy Zare. TikTok, YouTube, yes, I'm all over the place.
Beautiful. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here. Any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
When you care about the other person enough to know what their language is, what their values are, and you shift what you say to match their values, it's like, by analogy, having just a few words in a foreign language. The person's face lights up and they say to themselves, oh my goodness, here's a friend. So be a friend today by speaking somebody's language to your sales success.
I love that. Thank you so much, Nancy, for being here, hanging out with us. That brings us to an end of yet another incredible episode of Her Talk Show. For those of you listening live that are still here or on the replay, make sure you follow, make sure you like, and make sure you share. Once again, I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I invite you to join our amazing community, Her Nation, where we continue to have uplifting conversations just like this one every step of the way to help you in your personal and your professional journey. Until next time, do something awesome.